Yeah, I see this as anything you can do, I can do better when it comes to the two major parties. I think people just have very short-term memory in politics, but I can
Yes.
remember clear as day, as I'm sure you do, in December of 2016, where the Clinton faction did everything in their capacity to get the Electoral College voters to flip their vote. Now, they didn't go about it the way that Trump was going about it to try to get his way. But it just becomes this whole, you spend 4 years saying that the guy who somehow snuck in as the president of the United States, because this country is basically done with this current system. And if Trump is not the smoke signal the first time, hopefully the second time it will be, because I think he's going to figure out a way to get in again.
Yeah.
That to me is, it really speaks to that whole, the DC, Beltway messaging that goes out specifically to what I deem to be the most dangerous political class, which is the upper liberal class, because they're the first people to say yes to war and the last to ever lift a weapon to defend this country. I always find them to be the most dangerous.
Because they pay people to do it for them.
Well, that's true too. What I would like to conclude this conversation with, which I think is very important, we look at what's happened over the last several years, particularly when it comes to the likes of the John Boltons, although he's still with the GOP. But I look at people like Mr. Axis of Eagle, David Frum, when you look at somebody like maybe the biggest war criminal who hasn't been prosecuted, Bill Kristol. And then, of course, you look at people like Jennifer Rubin and so on and so forth. These people have been embraced by the Democratic Party establishment with open arms.
They just got excited about a Dick Cheney endorsement.
Yeah.
They are gone.
So I'm asking you, Colonel, has there been, obviously people are going to play to whatever crowd they can. They're going to say the GOP is flipped with the Democrats and so forth. But do you think there has been some type of a structural change between the two major parties, particularly when it comes to foreign policy?
I don't think it's between them. I think it's among them. And I make that distinction simply to say that they both are bad, in my view. And they have oligarchs backing them in every segment of their evil, if you will. And they have money with those oligarchs, and they have a way to influence the system. And the system itself has morphed over time, including the Congress. We now have a sold out Supreme Court. We can't get rid of it for years now. It's basically composed of, on the one hand, Opus Dei, and on the other hand, people who are so favorable towards big business that we might as well close the door on the common man. So the Supreme Court's gone. The Congress is basically sold out to AIPAC first and special interests second. And the executive is going to go along with whatever the DNC or the RNC says, because that's where the money is. That's where the money pours from. We've corrupted our political system. And the only way to change that is for the American people to insist on getting it back. And that's a torturous process. It's a process of education. It's a process of getting them angry. It's a process of doing the little things in the precincts that need to be done. I remember vividly watching Karl Rove, watching his face when he was on television with regard to Ohio. He was on with regard to Fox. Well, I'm sorry, Karl. He was looking at the Fox prediction, and he said, that can't be right. We could not possibly have lost Ohio. Well, what happened was the Democrats learned to cheat the way Karl had cheated 4 years earlier. And so they beat him. Well, that's not the way to fix our system. One party to cheat better than the other party and then do the same thing the next time around. But that's what's wrong with our system now. Our system is corrupt.
Okay, so and I heard that Zelensky has recently announced his victory plan. Is that okay? So, and I'm sitting here trying to decide what's more ridiculous, his victory plan or Kamala's opportunity economy. But I think that the victory plan seems a lot more dangerous.
It is a lot more dangerous.
That we're taking seriously, because my understanding was a couple of weeks ago, we almost ended up in like a serious nuclear war situation and everybody was just going about their lives like nothing is happening. And we were just about to let Ukraine just go right on deep into Russia. We were going to go do that.
If Biden reverses himself, previously he said no. He's giving every hint that he might reverse himself now on long-range missiles going into Russia. Here's what Putin said. Aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the participation or support of a nuclear state, will be considered a joint attack on the Russian Federation. That means missiles coming in. I think, first of all, we'll get avant-garde type missiles. They go, you ready for this?
Yeah.
They go 32,000 kilometers per hour. Do the math. That's about 19,000 miles an hour. You cannot stop them. You cannot shoot them down. No ballistic missile defense. Anything will stop them. When they impact, they're non-nuclear unless you put a warhead on them. When they impact with their HE warhead, high explosive warhead, 2 or 3 of them in Kyiv would eliminate Kyiv. Their impact is like a small nuclear weapon without the radioactivity and without the censure. So that's what he's going to do first. And he might do it on Estonia, Latvia, Warsaw, you name it, any place where he believes that this NATO configuration is marshaling itself against him. You may not recall this, but they shot an institution that was essentially training people in Ukraine to fight Russia inside Ukraine. They've killed more Swedes than have been killed in the last 75 years. In fact, Sweden has got body bags coming back to them.
Oh my God.
That's what he's going to do first. But the second thing he's going to do, if that doesn't work, is he's going to shoot nuclear warheads.
Why are they not taking him seriously?
Because they think he's bluffing. Joe Biden thinks he's bluffing.
Doesn't sound like it to me. Like, that sounded pretty clear.
I think Sergei Lavrov, who's probably the most accomplished diplomat in the world, was a dear friend of Colin Powell's when he was Secretary of State, and talking to Russia and Vladimir Putin have 2 of the clearest strategic minds in the world today. And they are not bluffing. And to call their bluff and to see that he is not bluffing is no road to walk down.
It's very frustrating right now, because I look at this like, what is even the point of the State Department when we have zero connection with any of our adversaries, when we don't talk to Russia, we don't talk to China, we don't talk to Iran, but what is the whole point of having a State Department? Like, I really don't understand. What is it? 'Cause isn't the point of the State Department to speak with adversaries? We don't need to talk to all the people that love us. Like,
exactly.
What? So what?
Exactly.
What do we do? We have no communication with Russia.
I think this is just
a disaster.
This is just a reverberation, because they, much like you said, they can't accept the fact that Iran defied the U.S. State Department. There are people in D.C. who will never, ever accept the fact that Trump found a way into the White House. And I think that that is something that you're kind of seeing now, where it's like, Trump wants to have détente. Trump also wants his, Medal of Freedom, or what is the Nobel Peace Prize. I totally want my medal. I'm going to get my medal either way. It's going to happen. And, they look at that and they think, oh, no. And if that means we have to risk nuclear annihilation, nuclear holocaust, then that's what we'll do. Because they really are convinced. It's like you see that movie, Don't Look Up, and you think it's a joke.
Every day it's more and more real.
It's really not. It's not a joke at all. Like, there really are people, you were a very young lad at the time, but you really have to wonder what was going through Jack's mind when everyone's like, no, you have to invade Cuba. You have to do this. Who cares what the Russians are saying? We have to do this. And he decided, no, I'm not doing this. Now,
and
maybe
the whole time during the Cuban Missile Crisis and the, I think, more serious Berlin Missile Crisis, or the Berlin Crisis, the whole time the GDR was emptying itself of its citizens, and we had to help them build the wall to keep its citizens in the GDR. The whole time we were working with Cuba and working with Moscow, we were talking. Bobby Kennedy had channels. Jack Kennedy had channels. The CIA had channels. We never stopped talking to Nikita Khrushchev and his people. And we never stopped talking. Yeah, and now we're not talking to anyone. I'm told it's an order. I'm told it's a presidential order that no one can talk to Sergei Lavrov, for example.
I just don't see how that. I don't understand it, and I have very much similar concerns about what we're doing with China, and that the whole thing with Taiwan. And it's like, we have no real communication with these people. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, if I were other countries, I'd be joining BRICS. I wish I could join BRICS.
Here's part of the problem. Wang Yi, I've known Wang Yi since the summer of 2001. When Richard Haas and I and others had policy planning talks with him in Beijing, and then he came to the U.S. for a reciprocal visit. I've known him for a long time. He's a very accomplished diplomat. He's probably the second most accomplished diplomat in the world to Sergei Lavrov, who's been their foreign minister now for, 20 years? Both of them will not be talked to by us. And both of them have opinions that are worth listening to. They have views that are worth listening to. They have advice that's worth listening to. We won't talk to either one of them. And here's, I think, the real reason. We are so incompetent. We do not want to get in a conversation with them because we know they will darken the path with our ignorance. And we don't want to talk with them because of that. Certainly not Sergei Lavrov. And Wang Yi is just about as accomplished as he. So you don't get in the room with somebody who will make you look like a fool. That's Blinken's excuse.
Well, that's going to start to eliminate so many countries that we're really not going to have anybody to talk to. Because if you want to know,
right.
make us look stupid, it could be pretty much anybody at this point. I don't even
You're
think
right.
that can help.